You're listening to Yizar Media. Hello, American pickers. Friends, before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Frank Fritz, an American picker star, passed away on Monday, September 30th. According to a close friend, he lost his will to live 2 years after having a crippling stroke. With his loved ones by his side, including longtime friend and co-star Mike Wolfe, Frank passed away at the age of 60 in an Iowa hospice. He felt really bad. Jerry, who owns the bar Hog Dogs in Savannah, Illinois, where the late star's antique store Frank Fritz Finds is located, told the U.S. Sun, "You would go to see him in the nursing home and one half of his body was completely done. He would lift his arm up and it would just drop. That's got to be tough to be totally bedridden." Jerry explained how Frank grew frustrated because he couldn't come out and say what he wanted to say, though some days were much better than others. "I've seen this when people get tired. They get tired. I think if you don't have the will to live," Jerry said. "I think Frank could have lived a lot longer if the will to live would have been there. Frank was pretty much a what you see is what you get guy. His faults were his faults. You can't fault anybody for being what they are. He was a right is right and wrong is wrong kind of person. He made a mark on history." American Pickers' Mike Wolfe looks downcast outside Iowa guest house in first photos since co-star Frank Fritz's death. Source previously told the U.S. Sun how Frank struggled in the months leading up to his passing. "He has been bad since the stroke, and he had been getting worse. He was unable to move the right side of his body. He needed 24-hour care. There was no way he was getting better." The passing comes 2 years after Frank suffered a stroke in his Iowa home in July 2022. Frank was unable to recover from the stroke fully, as he was rushed to the hospital 4 times in 2022 and 2023 for pneumonia and a seizure. He was left wheelchair-bound and returned to a rehabilitation center after the hospital stints. He can walk, but he's always going to need the wheelchair because he can't dance. A source previously described Frank's struggles in the months before his death to the U.S. Sun. Since the stroke, he has been ill and has been getting worse. The right side of his body was immobile. He required care around the clock because there was no way he was getting better. Frank passed away in July 2022, 2 years after he had a stroke at home in Iowa. Frank was taken to the hospital 4 times in 2022 and 2023 for pneumonia and a seizure, which prevented him from fully recovering from the stroke. Following his hospital stays, he was left wheelchair-bound and sent back to a rehabilitation facility. He is able to walk, but he will always require a wheelchair because he is unable to inhale. Basically, you lose motion. He lost motion. A stroke can affect your left or your right side. It affected his right side. Frank's close friends filed for a conservatorship and guardianship for him in August 2022. Midwest One Bank acted as Frank's conservator, while his close friend Chris Davis was his guardian. Because of his stroke, Mr. Fritz's decision-making capacity is so impaired that he is unable to care for his own safety or to provide for necessities such as food, shelter, clothing, or medical care, without which physical injury or illness may occur. Documents obtained by the U.S. Sun read, "Mr. Fritz's decision-making capacity is so impaired that he is unable to make, communicate, or carry out important decisions concerning his own financial affairs. Decisions must be made for Mr. Fritz's care and placement while he continues to recover and receive treatment for his injuries. The appointment of a guardian and conservator was deemed necessary to avoid immediate harm to him." In July 2024, conservator Midwest One demanded Frank's finances be transferred to them because he needed skilled and long-term nursing care at the time. Frank Fritz was placed under a conservatorship in August 2022, just weeks after he suffered a stroke. Mike, 60, announced Frank's passing the morning after his death. As he wrote on Instagram, "It's with a broken heart that I share with all of you that Frank passed away last night. I've known Frank for more than half my life, and what you've seen on TV has always been what I have seen. A dreamer who was just as sensitive as he was funny. The same off-camera as he was on, Frank had a way of reaching the hearts of so many by just being himself. Who would have ever dreamed we would share the cockpit of a white cargo van in front of millions of people interested in our adventures. Before the show, we would take off together to places we never knew existed with no destination in mind, and just the shared passion to discover something interesting and historic. The U.S. Sun obtained exclusive photos of Mike, 60, outside of his Iowa vacation rental in his hometown of LeClaire, Iowa on Wednesday, October 2nd. Mike appeared somber in the photos as he focused on making renovations to the home. The U.S. Sun also obtained photos of Mike's brother Robbie, who replaced Frank on the History Channel show. Additionally, he seemed depressed as he was observed conversing with clients at his Davenport, Iowa store, United Motors. The U.S. Sun was previously informed by Frank's guardian about the late History Channel star's funeral arrangements. In the future, life will be celebrated. It will be large. Fans are welcome to come. My band is one of the many bands that have already expressed interest in playing. Most likely, this will happen in the spring. I will say that Frank loved his fans and he passed away peacefully with friends at his side, Chris continued, referring to his close friend. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe my YSR Media to our channel and stay with us.